Jesse, cue it up. Everybody in their places. It's time to go.
Are we rolling? Yeah, we're rolling. Okay, let's get it done, everybody. Let's go. Hey, Reagan, how's my hair? Is it okay?
Poxy, they can't see you.
All right, come on, let's go. It's dudes, people. Poxy, start on page 4. Get the lines right this time.
All right, I got it this time, I swear.
4, 3.
Come on. It's time for the Ghost of Hollywood.
Welcome to the 34th episode of The Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Poxy Leonard here with Miss Reagan, and tonight we have our friend Thaddeus Thompson in the studio to discuss his work in claymation and how things go on set down at his Rawhound Productions.
That's right. Not long ago now, Thaddeus released his first stop-motion video using claymation, debuting with a short called The Two Tortoises.
Coming in under just 2 minutes, The Two Tortoises features, well, two tortoises racing across a 2-lane road, tell us some jokes, with both receiving jawline adjustments from the passing car.
And although Thaddeus had more plans for this series, the quickly evolving ideas that would ultimately become Planet Juicebox would consume his focus following The Two Tortoises.
Yeah, this kept him busy designing the character now known as Tex, a dim-witted gruffy biker type cruising up and down the highways. Along with Tex, Planet Jukebox would introduce additional characters and set designs, all modeled in economically creative ways over many laborious hours, and all created by Thaddeus himself, excluding some help with voice acting from a few friends.
But as all things progress in production, so does the size of its team behind its development. And after the attention Thaddeus' work began receiving following the release of each Planet Jukebox episode, he needed a team to keep up with the increasing pace and demand behind his stop-motion production and claymation modeling.
I want to be a claymation character, Reagan.
Oh, here we go.
What do you mean, oh, here we go?
You're gonna hijack the opening like you always do because you have the attention span of an ant.
You know, everyone is always saying ants have a short attention span, but has this ever been verified?
Are you serious, Poxy?
Well, okay, fine, I'm sorry, but it's true
What?
that I want to be a claymation character.
Bait me again, you Bajoran-looking space clown.
Calm down, Reagan.
I don't want to.
It's okay, Reagan.
One day, Poxy.
What do you mean one day?
That's it.
What? What? Reagan? Reagan? Stop it!
Here we go again. I guess we'll go to break. I'm the sound engineer, Linux, and when we return, Reagan and what's left of Poxy will sit down with Thaddeus Thompson to discuss his work in claymation and stop-motion film. Stay tuned, because you're listening to The Ghost of Hollywood.
Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghostofhollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to The Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Miss Reagan here with Poxy Leonard, and tonight here in studio, we have Thaddeus Thompson. Thaddeus is a talented claymation animator and the founder of Rawhound Productions. He has recently released new material for a stop-motion claymation short series, Planet Juicebox. With a background in molding, crafting, claymation figures, motorcycles, and engineering, Thompson combines technical skill and creative storytelling in his work, making a unique mark in the field of animated shorts.
All right, all right, now a lot comes into play with your work in stop motion and clay animation, right? Now, being self-taught, and we were talking about the lunchbox earlier, so that's kind of where you began with me off the air. Now, how does that factor into your, prior interests or experience with animation or cinematography that led to your work in claymation?
So in the beginning, when I started, I was really into stop motion as a kid. And what we were talking about earlier was around this time, I don't remember, somewhere like the mid-90s or something, I didn't have any way of filming anything. I was just a younger kid. There wasn't, cell phones around where you could just film stuff or anything like that. So one of my first experiences doing any kind of recording was on this thing called a lunchbox. And basically, it's this box that holds all your files, and you basically would move your character and then just press a button and it'd take a picture of your character and you'd do movement through that.
Oh, so with each configuration, basically, you could, I don't know what the machine is. So like you would hit the button, then you reposition, then you hit the button again. So it just kind of expedites the workflow.
Yes, yeah. Which nowadays a lot of people have use like Dragon Frame and stuff like that, and you could go through and see your like previous photos. Yeah.
No, y'all got to explain this to me. What's going on? Y'all it was like a symbiosis.
Like,
it was like,
yes,
yeah,
we know.
what you talking about? I don't.
No.
What do you mean?
Everyone knows, don't you know?
No, I don't
You're
know.
hiding under a rock all this time.
my configurations, it'd be like, all right, like I would move one joint and it would look like it moved for like 40 some frames. And he's like, that would be me. That would be me.
It's a fast moving character there.
When you begin, flash chord, it's relativistic change. Now, when you begin the development process for a new project, though, where do you start? And like, has this kind of this workflow developed over time?
Yeah, that really depends. I don't really have a set way of doing things yet. Every project's, I would say, different. Like sometimes I just have a story in my head. More recently, I tried to get more into storyboarding, especially now that I'm starting to reach out and work with other artists. Sometimes I'll just visually in my head see something really cool I want to build. I have so many ideas I haven't even begun to start yet, but sometimes I'll start with like a set and then go from there and create characters. Other times I have a funny character in mind, so I'll start with that. I know with like the planetjuicebox that you brought up earlier, so that one with Text the character, I actually created this motorcycle chopper first, and that was like my first thing. And then from there, I was like, well, I need a cool character. But also, with like chopper culture and stuff, like, it's kind of like rough and tough looking. So I wanted to take a different direction with that and make it a little slapstick and goofy, not to take it too serious or anything. So,
all right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about text though.
Yes.
Text. So we're gonna have to. All right, we're gonna definitely
We'll
get
text
back to
later,
yeah.
Gotta bring up
Sorry.
text. No, it's good. But that's the thing. I was like, I want to ask about a lot of questions about text, but there's so many that it's going to correlate to a lot of the other characters and the design and the development of that. What were you going to say, though, Rick?
Well, now, usually when you think of claymation, we think of films such as Wallace and Gromit and The Nightmare Before Christmas or Kubo and the Two Strings come to mind. Now, have some of these more famous claymation films or programs provide insight into producing a self-made project to, meet the spec of industry standard?
I would say, oh man, that's a hard one to answer. So I kind of got lost back in the, starting with some of those, like Kuba and stuff. Those are really amazing films. They're very clean. I love the story behind them. The plots are great and everything. I kind of got more, for me, my interest was more peaked in like in the 90s with like the PJs, Prometheus and Bob, Celebrity Deathmatch. Like that's a lot of my inspiration. And as far as like getting it cleaner and stuff, watching some of these other films where they're using like 3D printing and stuff like that, I do love how clean it flows and the characters move and stuff. So I'd say in that way, it's kind of like inspired me to try and get cleaner movements and stuff. But for me, I like to keep somewhat of a choppiness, keep it a little authentic. Some of the stuff nowadays, like I have respect for all the different types of stop motion, but for me, it's a little too clean. I feel like in the late 90s and stuff and early 2000s, which I think the PJs was like 99, 2001 or something.
Yeah, that's a spot. That's one of the shows I was talking about off the air with the 4 channels, the PJs.
Yeah.
On the King of the, what was it, when the King of the World on the shopping cart?
Yeah. So I feel like that's really what I aim for with my stuff, is more style like that.
Now, so like when you give, I'm hanging up here, when you start a project, now, we were talking about kind of the timing and then the workflow that goes into place with that. Do you begin it differently based on if someone's feeding you a concept? Say if someone comes in and is like, hey, I have an advertisement in place, or I have a music video like what you're working on right now with Jenny Dalton, The Spurs.
Yes.
How do you work with that conceptually to kind of in somebody else's head and then bringing that to life as opposed to when you generate it within your own mind?
Well, so the fun thing with, like, for example, you just brought up Jenny Dalton, The Spurs. The fun thing about that was, so I actually asked Jenny, I was like, so what are you wanting? And they said, you have full creativity. It's
so
up to
you're still in control.
Yeah.
Right. That was a terrible question, and I'm sorry.
No, it's not a terrible question at all, because I was actually very like, do I want someone to tell me what to do? And I think it was fun. In that sense, I could do what I want, but definitely for me, I'm like, well, I want them to be happy with it. So, I'm occasionally bugging her, like, what do you think of this?
No, that's
idea?
smart though, because like you don't want to get that far, and then all of a sudden the parameters are set after you develop it.
Exactly.
They're like,
Yeah.
nope, scratch that.
Well, or there's this awkwardness where there's always like creative versus like the naivete of development at times where it can be like, so could you maybe do a little of this or a little of that? And you're like, let's just work through that shit now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where storyboarding comes, that's where that's important, because before when I was doing a lot of my own stuff, my storyboarding was in my head. I didn't have anyone I needed to show it to or nothing like that. And I remember that stuff. I mean, I'm constantly thinking about those things, so I wasn't worried about losing that information. But now, now that I'm working with like a band, and now that I've like kind of brought on other artists to this project, it's like, no, you have to have a vision. You have to storyboard it. And I like to keep it loose. I don't want to be like, there may come a day where it's like, this is set and this is what we got to do. But I like to keep it a little looser, kind of have like a loose idea, like, hey, you know what? This is basically what we're going for, but let's kind of freestyle it a little bit and not just be set so in stone with it. Because sometimes the best ideas come last minute or by accident or.
Oh yeah, happy accidents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you give yourself some room to play with the artistry in it. There's not so
Definitely.
much pressure that way, because a lot of times, you get hung up on something that doesn't work. And then it doesn't allow you to work outside of that.
That happens often, actually. One of the other big things I've been focused on right now is trying to meet deadlines, because before it was, it's like a hobby and stuff I'm doing for myself and for fun. To where now I was like, with like planetjuicebox, for example, I knew that photos were going to be getting released in this chopper book over in Europe. So there's like, oh, we need these photos by this deadline. I'm like, well, I have to have this done by this time then. So now I'm really practicing on deadlines. So there are things where you like kind of cut. I try not to cut corners too much, but there are things where you got to kind of switch it up to make it work and stuff like that. Do you have to do more? Well,
first you dropped the whole chopper book, so I'm like, I wanted to ask deadlines. Now you got to talk the chopper book.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. But like, but with the deadlines, so does that mean do you kind of have to have a little more pre-planning on the calendar as far as, look, we've got.
It's all written out. Definitely.
How does it work with the start and stop? Say, because there's so like, all right, now where everything's so fine tuned, when you're like, all right, this is the end of today. How do you start tomorrow?
I basically break it down into sections. So like, for example, right now, there's a backdrop being done. So Jenny she asked me to have this ad done, which is due next week. And so, and that's been a bit stressful, but it's a good, test to myself. And the backdrop's not fully completed yet. Well, here's the deal. I can't have the terrain. I can't start filming or anything like that till this backdrop's done.
So you're stuck right there. You're waiting on the plumbers to put the shit in for you can finish the walls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of working on what I can work on while that's being done. And I'm kind of piecing it together to try and drop it all in as quick as possible and film it. And I would say, like, on average, I would say for me, like when I'm doing a character, this is another thing we'll probably end up talking about. I did used to do a lot of clay. I still add clay to my stuff, but actually I've switched to silicone more recently.
All right, why?
I think I could get a cleaner feel. It's hard to, okay, so I got a lot of respect for clay, and I definitely will always go back to clay, and I still at times use it if I have eyeballs popping out of the head or anything like that. Clay is like, to me, like that's the OG, I will always have that somewhere in my films, but silicone is just so much cleaner. You could do things with it. And then if you're dealing with, especially, maybe I just haven't found the right clays yet, but if I'm shooting and the room's hot and stuff, and then the clay character's like kind of falling over and you're getting weird fingerprints in. Oh, sorry.
Well, but that's what I was going to ask you about is when it comes to your clay characters, how do you like preserve those like long term? Like, how do you take care of those?
I have a ritual sacrifice after each film I do. Throw them in a bonfire. No, so the clay ones.
Is that really what happens?
No.
Like, I feel like these biker dudes hanging out around the bonfire. They're like, all right,
throw them
peace,
in.
Tex. It's a fucking funeral pyre, buddy.
Well, you guys seen like Small Soldiers and
so that's all right.
They come to life and want to kill you. And so Chucky, like, you got to be careful. You got to kill them before they kill you.
It makes sense. Yeah, you don't need them piling up in the house. Yeah.
No, with these silicone ones, that's the cool thing about the silicone ones is like, they're a lot more expensive. They take way longer to make. But the cool thing is you can preserve them. So I actually recently bought a light box that I started storing my characters in. So it starting to look like a little museum in my room, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's what's up. I would imagine as time goes and you do more too, some of these characters are going to become pretty quintessential. Like you might want to, like say Tex is recurring, right?
He is reoccurring.
Do you have to rebuild him every time?
No. So that depends. So I've only built him once so far. I do have the molds for it, so I can recast them and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so you actually,
Remold them. I don't know if it's
you
in
have
the
like
back.
molds in place for these then.
Yeah. So you basically would make the character out of this like NSP clay, and then you start doing casting and molds and stuff, and then dump the silicone into. There's different techniques. Like some people will do like ball and socket. I tried that, but that's very expensive. The cheapest I found was like $60 for one little ball and socket character. You could also use like wire and stuff, which I really like using. But yeah, and basically like the cool thing about ball and socket though is because you have all the screws and bolts and stuff. So like say his arm kind of falls apart, you could kind of cut the silicone and get in there and like retorque it if you need to, make it tighter.
So I'm understanding ball and
Change it.
socket like the old GI Joes, like you like pop it out and then push it back in, kind of the pressure almost.
Sort of, but it's like metal. Yeah, it's same idea, but it's like a literal like metal balls and sockets.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like your mic, here how it's all.
All right, the joint configurations to it.
yeah,
Then. All right, I get you.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move on to character design in a moment to discuss your characters more, but before we start there, what kind of timetable are we looking at from start to finish from filming and manipulating the models? And like I'm talking outside of editing and all the sound and stuff. How long does it take you to film this stuff?
Just for filming, I mean so that really varies depending on like how technical I'm wanting to get, and like if it's something flying and any kind of movement like that. I would say on average for me, and I'm sure everyone has their own speeds, and probably could relate, that kind of depends what you're filming. But for me, I usually takes me about 3 weeks to a month to do just like a couple minutes. But that's just like a ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that I want to talk about your characters, so
We got to incorporate when you ask about Tex though. We got to talk about the Chopper magazine because Tex deals with the Chopper magazine too, right?
Tex and Nina are in the chopper. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead. I'll shut up now.
well, how did you approach the character design when creating figures?
Wait, sorry, say that again. I missed that.
No, you're good. How did you approach character design when creating Tex and your other characters?
Oh man. So with Tex, I basically took one of my friends and thought of his character as a person in this life, and then took Tommy Chung, everyone knows Tommy Chung, and I kind of morphed them into this character and drew him out, and then just sort of molded him.
Does said friend know this, or is it a secret?
No, I've jokingly
All right,
said
all right,
that. But that's also just for like looks, not necessarily like how they act as a person, for like mannerisms and stuff. As far as that goes, I feel like I kind of, and I do this a lot with the Planet Juicebox, I kind of bit a lot from Prometheus and Bob, and so there's that caveman that's just kind of like, yeah. So I feel like with Tex, there's a lot of moments where you could see him where he's not moving his mouth, but you hear kind of some like weird talking and grunting where you're just like, and that's kind of where I would suppose like his actual who he is as a person, and I kind of got from that as kind of like a caveman dummy. Kind of a badass dummy that kind of falls into these crap situations.
Yeah, but like you're saying, there is a lot like the sounds though give this sort of. I mean, they give an expressive response to it. Like say when Nina takes the bike, and he's kind of
yeah.
It gives a lot of way to do it. So what happens with this Chopper magazine to incorporate them into that? How's that all come to play? What's going on there?
Oh, so with the Chopper book, it was really cool. So that actually stemmed from the mini chopper I built. So I started building this like little mini chopper, and again, that's kind of what started the whole Planet Juicebox. I just like I'm obsessed with choppers and old school muscle cars and stuff. So I was like, I got to build a chopper. I have a couple choppers at home. I'm gonna build a mini
that's
one.
That's what I was gonna ask. I mean, I know. So Texas influence and channeled through the motorcycle community, and you have a big like a mechanical background.
Yeah,
too, so you like to work on this stuff. How does it go when you have like a real one? Then you're like you downsize it to
it's fun. Yeah, building it. It was kind of funny too. Like even like the seat, making the actual seat pan and then like wrapping the leather around that, which, with it being mini, I couldn't use like actual leather. I had to use like some pleather and stuff like that. But, making that was really fun. But one of my friends had seen it, knew I was doing it and seen it online and stuff. And so he sent it to this guy he knows over in Europe that does these, I always say this backwards. I believe it's Chop Party Ride or Chop Ride Party. I always get it mixed up.
If we got it wrong here, we'll get it right in post for you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it at the end.
Yeah. But so he knew this, and they've released quite a few books now.
What do they primarily focus on? Just motorcycles in general?
So, yeah, they just focus on... Well, they focus on a lot of things, but they mainly focus on choppers. It's basically a motorcycle chopper book, specifically. But what they always do, which is really cool, is they always pick an artist, and then they feature an artist in this book. And so I was lucky enough to be the person featured in this book. So I basically took a lot of photos of this mini chopper and then had the background with Tex and Nina. And at that point, when I was taking those photos, like I didn't even know the show was going to be called Planet Juicebox or anything like that. I just kind of had these characters and kind of was just winging it.
All right. So how's it? So it develops from there. Then where's the name Planet Jukebox come from?
Just trying to keep it loose and goofy because, like, again, chopper stuff could be kind of scary and stuff, to some people, to yuppies or whatever. Not everyone. Some people just hate on it. But, I just wanted to kind of keep it loose and goofy. I don't want stuff. I got ideas for more serious things in the future, but for this, I just wanted to keep it kind of fun and goofy for everyone. I don't want to like pigeonhole myself into like, oh, this guy just does motorcycle stuff. Like I got a lot of other ideas, whether it's like wizards and
one of the first things that you were doing was two tortoises, right? One of the first things.
Yeah,
that's not motorcycle. They get run over, but it's not. They're in the road.
They get ran over by a '57 Chevy. That's right. So that one. So with that one, there was basically this joke my buddy would tell me as an old, I think European joke or something about these two tortoises, and it's kind of a joke that has to be visually seen in person. You can't like say it over the air, but it's basically like one of the turtles has an underbite, one of them has an overbite, and so the tortoise is like, when it rains, does the water like roll down your shell and into your mouth? And the underbite one is asking that because he's getting rain in his mouth, and then the overbite one's like, no. But I don't know that came over too well in film. I feel like a lot of people probably didn't understand that one, but my idea was I was going to do a bunch of classic jokes that basically have been around for like dad jokes and stuff. I had this idea where I was going to take a bunch of jokes people knew about, but then put my own spin on it. Like in that joke, they never talk about racing across the street. So I kind of added that. It's basically two tortoises hanging out in a garden. So I was going to do all these like classic jokes and sort of like release them visually into stop motion. But then I kind of put that to the wayside because I wanted to start building choppers and muscle cars and stuff.
You keep pretty busy. I mean,
I kind of fly all over the place. I mean, I got that Florida Room project.
That's what I was about to ask you about, because you've literally designed like a miniature version of Florida Room, right?
Yes.
And okay, so how do you approach? I've got a good question. Right, how do you approach developing like a real world environment or a scenario somewhere? Let me just cut it dry.
Yeah.
Florida Room exists. How do you make places that exist on a micro level?
Well, that's a cool thing. For me, it's easier because it's already created. So I'm basically just duplicating what has already been created. Which in some ways for some people could be harder because it has to look a specific way, where like if you're creating a monster, if one hand's bigger than the other, it doesn't matter. It's a monster.
Yeah.
So making the Florida Room, I tried to make it a little more cartoony. I felt like it started getting a little too realistic, and I wanted to do so there was things where I made like the swag lamps inside the bar a little bigger. The outside sign, I'm going to start making a little more exaggerated and bigger and stuff because it's too... Yeah, it's too much
you gotta give it that like fucking 50s roadside motel, like that high pink kind of shit look to it. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah. And I was thinking about calling that one the Flamingo Room instead of the Florida Room.
Oh, that's what's up. There we go. I'm in line with this.
Yes.
We got to get you the license of the track. What's that song like? A tin, 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 in the background. I only have eyes for you. That's it. There you go. Now, so you go to design. How long is it taking you to design that? And you haven't put that to the table yet, have you?
No, I put a lot. The Florida Room one was like, oh man, that's snowballed. And that's where maybe storyboard and stuff is important. So I wanted to get back into stop motion. So I was like, I'm going to I used to do these 50s nights. Okay, so people that don't know, I work at Florida Room. I bartend there. I book the DJs. So I have Monday nights. I do like this chili dog night. Used to do 50s nights. Now it's just DJ and chili dog night. But a year ago, I used to do these 50s nights, and
You like just run out of Eddie Cochran albums. Is what
yeah,
happens.
exactly. Yeah, that's why.
None of the goods live long enough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So I was like, I'm gonna make. I wanted to get back in stop motion. I'm gonna make this ad for my 50s night. So I was like, I'll just do like Chuck Berry walking down. He ran more in the 60s or so, but I'm gonna do Chuck Berry like walking down the road, hitchhiker, pick him up, take him to Florida Room, and I started building this like forest set, and it started just like everything. I get really into detail and hung up, so I just built and built and built. And then I was like, oh man, I put so much time into this. Like, this has got to be more than just a quick ad. So maybe I'll do a commercial for Florida Room. So then I turned into that and kept building more stuff, started building the Florida Room. And then, after talking to like coworkers and stuff, it was like, well, they never asked for a commercial. So you're just going to provide this commercial randomly? I was like, let's make it funner and turn it into a TV show. So
you're like, all right, let's fucking one up it.
Let's even one up it. So it just kept snowballing.
All right.
So then I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So a lot of everyone that works at Florida Room, total character.
All right.
There's no dull people there.
So you got a fucking storyline as soon as you get the rest in place.
Yes,
All right.
yes. So what I ended up doing was getting some of the employees that work there to play these certain characters, because it's gonna have Lenny the Sasquatch. It was gonna have. Gosh, I got to remember that Guardo the alien. I'm trying to remember all that. Ricky the human. It's been a while. And so I got my coworkers, and I actually wrote out a script. Well, actually, I wrote a script, but then I had Kyle, he's one of my coworkers, rewrite the script because I felt like he might be better with dialogue and stuff. He's more into that. I'm not the best with dialogue. I kind of keep things really simple. So he actually, I would say, kind of me and him wrote the script. But we recorded these voices, and then I was getting ready. I was like kind of waiting. I was actually getting ready to work on that, but that was, like I was saying, it kept snowballing longer and longer. So then I was like, you know what I want to do? I need to get more practice in and get out there more. I'm going to start doing these films that I could finish within 4 to 6 months and not spend 2 years on a project,
Yeah, well, you get like at least 5 done before you die.
Yes. Yeah. I want to start ripping these out. So I was like, I'm going to put Florida Room on the side and build a little mini chopper because I'm into choppers. And then that snowballed into Planet Juicebox. I just turned into that out of nowhere.
But it sends you somewhere, though. Like, are you able to... I mean, I guess the versatility of it was, as you start to build more, you probably have you started to look to reuse some of these environments?
That is the other plan. Is I'm thinking what I might do is, and who knows, this could change again. But
we're documenting you now, so we'll revisit.
Yes. What I'm kind of thinking I might do is just have all these shorts, kind of like Planet Juicebox with Tex and Nina, where it's kind of like. What do you call that? It's like an introduction to the character. So I have all these like 2 to 5 minute shorts of different characters. Maybe do a Sasquatch one, do an alien one. And then later when I go back to the Florida Room one, the Flamingo Room, all these characters are going to be part of the Flamingo Room project. And it's like, I remember that character getting introduced on this little short he put out.
You building a metaverse, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's a good way to do it because especially where you've got, it allows you to simulate workflow. You got the consistencies of characters and you have your environment. And then as you go, you're going to start to learn them. So you're going to see, it's going to be one of those things in like 3 years, you'll be like, damn, then. But how do you, go ahead, Reagan, sorry.
Oh, no, but you talked about script writing earlier. Now, what I'm curious, do you usually like formalize script writing for these projects, or are they developed without a script?
So a lot of my earlier stuff was without a script. But yeah, that's what so also when you do stop motion, if you want actual dialogue, you don't have to do anything. You can do stuff any way you want. So I take that back. But you do want to kind of have the dialogue first and then try and sync the puppet or the character to the talking. So a lot of times if I know I want dialogue, I'm going to do the script first.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so how do you incorporate audio in post? What do you all do to build that in post?
So you're not talking dialogue. You're just talking actual like background noise.
Well, no, I mean even the dialogue, because you do. I mean, I guess you record everything in post. You're not doing anything on the field with it, so it's.
Yeah, I want to name drop here actually real quick. So
All right, go for it.
There's this guy I met actually at a karaoke bar, and his name's Jeremy Murphy.
All right.
I'm sure a lot of people may or may not know. He's so amazing. He's a total sweetheart. He's worked on a lot of great. He worked on like Pinocchio and stuff like that. He's been really.
You talking like Guillermo del Toro?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes. So he's been really sweet, and I'm kind of like newer to this. So he was gonna work with me on the Flamingo Room one, but then he got pulled aside for this really big project he's working on. But he's so nice that like I'll just hit him up, and he's got like a recording studio. He does music and stuff, and I'll just be like, "Hey, Jeremy, I got a script. Can you record some of my friends?" And he's like, "Bring them over, set it up." And so he's just been very helpful. Or if I ever have questions with like, I don't know, he's good with like dragon. He's an animator, so he's like really good with like dragon frame and stuff. And you know, I'm new to like a lot of stuff like chrome key and stuff. So he's like, "Oh yeah," I'll call him up and he'll be like, "Oh, try doing this."
All right, now you got it. All right, so now we're talking like editing stuff and software.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry, I got off topic.
No.
Yeah.
We're on topic. No, but
Yeah.
I'm curious because I want to understand it. Like as far as you're saying, and Reagan, I know you understand this a little more than I do because you've spent some time with stop motion stuff. But all right? Explain to me how you use chrome key and then how you're editing for this stuff. What you're talking about.
I honestly have not used a lot of chrome key. I I try and keep things as like authentic as possible. And green screen is stuff, you know, that's been around a while, so I'm not against it. I do use it. But basically what a lot of times with chrome key, like, is if you have your like rigging equipment, which is like holding your character up and stuff, or like, you know, if something's gonna fly through the air or something, a lot of times what they do now is they'll like chrome key out the object so you could like get rid of a lot of your like rigging equipment
I
stuff.
understand.
Oh, yeah.
I am not the best with chrome key, so I actually, what I do with a lot of my filming is I actually try and hide that stuff as much as possible. And I actually have only chrome keyed a couple things. And actually, some of the videos, if you watch them closely, you'll actually see the rigging, like the post and stuff, actually holding these characters up. I thought about deleting them, but I was like, you know what? I want to keep it. With AI world and stuff, I'm going to keep some of this to show you it's a real thing.
Well, there
Yeah.
is.
Well,
Who was telling me that the other day? You were telling me about the thumbtacks. Or
Well, if you see like a lot of older movies, like the Christmas movies that are pretty old, if you see
I love
a lot of
those.
those that are done by stop motion,
Like Rudolph and stuff?
yeah, Rudolph
yeah.
and stuff like Christmas in July and stuff like that.
that's what's up. I'm just kidding.
But if you look closely, a lot of times you can see little pins.
Yeah,
rolling
yeah.
into the floor. And that's what I was telling him earlier. I was like, well, a lot of times you can remove that now, but if
Yes,
you look
yeah.
at older stuff and you look very closely, you like pause and
Yes.
just look and be like, I can see a pin right there.
Yep.
Keeping that rigged
Yeah,
up.
they remove all that, especially for bigger projects like the movies they're releasing now. But for me, I'm like, it's art. Leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect imperfections.
I mean, but is it difficult to hide a lot? Do you have to use magnets and stuff to like keep them up, or
There's different ways. Sometimes they'll like screw them to the floors or use magnets. A lot of times what I'm doing, I got, you know, just a bunch of different rigging equipment. Also, by the way, rigging equipment is way more expensive than it should be. I just made all my own rigging equipment.
a lot of it you can do that shit?
Yeah. It's just like I'm just using like little clips with like ball and socket stuff, you know, and it's like, why would I spend $200 or whatever on this piece of metal? I could go out to my garage and make it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
That's
so-
shit. Like before you know it, though, you'll end up designing some. Have you thought about? Is there anything that you've approached in design where you're like, this might be like useful on an industry level?
I mean, I feel like not yet. You know, I feel like a lot of that stuff's already out there. Like cameras moving and like rigging equipment and different lighting tech. Like I feel like all that's just out there. It's like kind of just hit this peak where like all that's out there. And now it's like in today's world, I feel like they're starting to just focus more on digital stuff to like try and make it cleaner.
Yeah.
And all that, you know.
How about with cinematography itself? How do you approach that with cameras and lensing and stuff?
Do you
What
have
do
any
you do
kind
there?
of preference?
Like what I use or just how I get it? Like if I'm answering this right,
Yeah, like what do you
for
what
me,
you
I'm
use?
like, how do I get the sickest looking angle from the camera?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I approach it. I'm like, all right, where could I put my camera to get a really cool angle to capture different things, you know? And I never went to film school, so I don't even know like what proper techniques are and stuff. I'm told like, you know, there are certain things where like you can make the person watching dizzy and stuff. Which
you're talking about, say, breaking line with the 180-degree rule between like you and I.
Yeah, and I don't even know still to this day fully even know what that means.
Oh, so like say like between you and I, and just to give the listener kind of an understanding, we'll say that whoever, say if you had someone that's Thaddeus is right now directly in front of me, so you could draw a straight line, between us. Now you would be either on one side of the line or the other, and you would say if we were going to shoot dialogue, Thaddeus, and you would want to shoot from this side of my shoulder, and then yours from the same, and then we would shoot the establishing shot on this side. If we shot from over my left shoulder and then we shot from over the counter opposite shoulder on your side, it would be breaking line. So it jars the viewer because they're not able to perceptively understand it.
Totally what's going on.
Yeah, like there's a classic example, like say in The Shining, where people have done it deliberately, because sometimes they do it to jar you.
Yeah, they do this stuff deliberately too, yeah.
But where Jack Nicholson's standing there talking to the guy in the...
in the bathroom, right?
I bring this one up because it's like, you like Google this one, and this is the example that pulls up. So anybody that's out there listening, like you're going to hear.
It's a pretty standard example.
Yeah, they jump to the other side, so it breaks line, because instead of like, it would be like if we recorded from the right side of us and then the left. But I learned this naively too. Like I shot a bunch of shit and didn't know it, and then when I started reading about it, I was like, oh fuck this. Luckily, but like that's why you're saying that, like you kind of cover your ground with naivete a lot, and you learn from it. But there's also creative work out of that.
Well,
too,
and for me, I throughout life play by my own rules, so I. Not going to school there's things out there that maybe I'm messing up on, but I don't care. For me, it's like, does it look good?
I mean, but that's kind of the natural
good,
flow of it. Like
it.
if you have an organic understanding of it, like say if the question is always, I want it to look like this, then however you get to that, who gives a fuck about the formalities?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't notice anything. Say like when you in your work,
I'm
you
told
have a lot
from friends of mine that went to film, they were like, actually, that was one of the things they pointed out why I even learned about this. They're like, wow, you have like kind of a natural eye for like how the camera flows and stuff. I was like, I don't know what that means, but thank you. And then they kind of explained what you're talking about. To you,
it's like, well, you get this idea. You're like, all right, something feels wrong, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So you know if it feels right.
Then I would reshoot that.
Yeah.
If I don't like it. But I also am like obsessed with movies. So I grew up watching a lot of movies and stuff. So probably just visually
probably get more of a feel for it. Yeah.
All right. Favorite two then. Favorite two.
Two movies ever?
I never ask stupid questions.
Oh.
Well, that's why I said, all right, it's favorite 8.
Yeah, I know, because I feel like even like with favorite two, it's like what genre?
I know there's so many. You got a good point. You got a good point.
And then I will say, there's like there's different eras for. Well, here's like an example. Like I feel like for the '80s, they had some of the best like horror films and the best like teen movies. To where like the '90s had some of the best like action movies and comedies. So it's kind of depending what was going on, and also really into like a lot of '60s and '70s movies, whether it's like apocalyptic or like motorcycle.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know. Man, what is there's so many great old motorcycle movies.
There's a lot. There's some weird ones out there too that are amazing. Everyone loves like the werewolves on wheels.
You ever seen Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town?
That I have not yet seen.
All right, you got to watch it. It's like, I think Billy Bob Thornton, like one of his first things, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But as a kid, someone set me down and was like, you need to watch
You're watching this.
Yeah. It was my mother, in fact. No, that's a lie. But now, go ahead.
Well, just to be more direct with cameras, what kind of cameras do you use?
So that's another thing. So the three main things I'm trying to learn right now is lighting. I'm trying to get better at. I never went to school for lighting. I never went to school for photography, and also I'm trying to meet like deadlines. So the camera I'm using now is called a Canon Rebel 2, so before I never used Dragon Frame. In my old stop motions and stuff, I was always using free programs. So I was using Microsoft Movie Maker.
Hey, I started the same way, man, with iMovie and shit,
Yeah. This is what I got for free. I'm going to use it. And people were blown away that I did a whole music video with like 20 different sets in Microsoft Movie Maker, but pulled it off somehow. But so for me, what I just did was a quick Google search of like, well, what cameras work good with Dragon Frame? Because I finally purchased Dragon Frame because I want to take it to the next level.
What's Dragon Frame? Y'all, I don't know.
We were talking about this earlier.
I'll let you explain that. I haven't.
It's a program that like everyone uses now, and it's basically a way to Oh, there's a lot to it. I'm still learning on it.
Well, but
actually.
like roughly, like if y'all are showing me a basketball, what do we do with it?
Well,
You know, I mean, like, I don't have to be a star, but just put me in the box a little.
Well, I'd say with most apps that I had seen before, I've never used Dragon Frame, but I've seen videos on it. Just to give a basic idea of what I've seen most stop motion programs do, and again, I'm not like nearly as experienced as you are, but mostly you take all the photos and it keeps them there for you, and you can I've seen
you like
a lot
click through them and
yeah,
stuff.
you can click through them, and
So it saves you the workflow, basically.
you don't
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
import all these photos; they're just in the app.
Yeah, it's a lot different than like the lunchbox I was talking about earlier, where you're snapping
you
photo and then
are
you pull it up
fucking-
later.
you
Yeah, you're
are
sitting there
Dragon
looking.
Frame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. And there's people out there that probably been using Dragon Frame forever. And like, oh, here's a much easier way of saying this.
But I didn't mean to drive you aside. But you were talking about the cameras in use with Dragon Frame when you
Oh
researched.
yeah. So, anyways, no, I just did a quick Google search, like what cameras are best for Dragon Frame, and one of them, and there's like obviously like quite a few different types of cameras people use, but one of the ones that did pop up was the Canon Rebel, and I'm like, well, Canon Rebel, I like that.
Yeah.
sounds kind of edgy. I'll go with that one.
All right, let's turn things over to Simon here for the Cinematic Dumpster Fire while we take a quick break. I'm Poxy Leonard with Ms. Reagan, and we've been speaking with Thaddeus Thompson about his work in stop motion and claymation. Stay tuned. We'll be back to resume that conversation right after this.
When it comes to making movies, anything can go wrong. And tonight we're here to discuss that on the Cinematic Dumpster Fire.
Welcome back to another special segment of the Cinematic Dumpster Fire. Hope you're enjoying the interview with Thaddeus. Definitely a cool dude for sure. He has this awesome Plymouth Duster he drove to the studio that I totally plan to steal while he's talking to Poxy and Reagan. That said, I'm not sure if tonight's story is a cinematic disaster or a feat. However, it's not without the various tales of struggle and foreboding, especially work around the water. All that said, tonight I want to touch on the making of the James Cameron sci-fi film, The Abyss.
Biting off a little more than we can chew here tonight, yeah, Simon?
Eat it, Poxy. The entire purpose of these segments is to pique the listener's interest in the event being discussed, so they quit listening to you and actually learn something new over the next hour.
Oh, that hurts, Simon. That hurts.
You don't fool me, Poxy.
Oh, no?
So, where
No.
was I?
Well, you were discussing the abyss, but now you're going to be in the abyss.
Yeah. The Abyss. The movie where over 40% of the shoot takes place underwater.
40% and everyone lived? Pull the segment.
Ed Harris may have well have died.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've read about the fluid in the helmet being like quite intrusive during those scenes where he is falling deeper and deeper down into the tank, or in the abyss in the ocean.
Just greasing over all of it, aren't you, Poxy?
What do you mean, Simon?
Well, what you're referring to is the oxygen-rich liquid that Harris has in his helmet in the movie. But it's just fluid for special effects in there, so Harris is actually holding his breath for prolonged periods of time while he's being dragged about 30 feet below the water surface.
But the rat actually survives, like, using the liquid. Not Ed Harris, but the actual rat that they have on the table, and they give the example of how the enriched oxygen liquid, oxygen-enriched liquid. I can't get all that at once, but it's okay, you know what I'm talking about. But that one that the rat breathes in and lives, they really did that to that animal, man.
Yeah, but true. And how do you feel about that?
Well, what do you mean, how do I feel about it? Like, what do you care? I know I don't want to be the rat.
Well,
That'd be terrible. Ugh. I mean, where can you get this fluid anyway, Simon?
Walmart.
Walmart? Really?
No, you idiot. I don't know where you get it, and you can barely survive breathing the air around you.
Oh, are you gonna tell them about the containment vessel now? Because I don't want to talk about the fluid anymore.
Sure, the containment vessel.
Go on.
I hate you, Poxy.
I love you too, Simon. Now tell the story.
Well, to abbreviate a bit, Duke Power abandons his $700 million facility outside of Gaffney, South Carolina, and James Cameron needs a massive tank to shoot underwater in a controlled environment, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak.
Can it, Poxy?
Sorry.
Anyway, the main tank you're likely talking about is the reactor containment vessel, and this primary vessel held 7.5 million gallons of water and had a depth of nearly 60 feet.
Ooh, that's lots of water, man.
Tank 2, a turbine pit, only held 2.5 million gallons of water.
Yeah, I said only 2.5 million gallons of water. That's like some Lou Grade raising the Titanic shit right there, Simon.
It took like 5 days to fill those tanks, dude. And then they had all this wild gear.
Yeah, now you're talking about the deep core rig. That thing they mount it to the bottom of the tank or something too weird like that.
A lot of concrete, I believe.
Exactly. Cinematographer Mikkel Solomon used watertight housing units to shoot under the water, and Cameron had a special helmet engineered by Space and Marine so that he could capture sound. Also, we moved beyond the tank already, but the main one sprang a major leak on day one and lost about 150 million gallons.
I mean, thousand.
I know.
He's lying to everybody. All right. I'm sure that helped the production schedule along.
Gets crazier. While the crew stayed above levels needed for decompression, Cameron and the crew sank to levels 50 feet and would have occasionally moved upward to a higher level in the tank to breathe pure oxygen, inhibiting the need for decompression.
You know, I'm scared to trust any facts you say after 150 million gallons.
I don't mean that, okay?
Go ahead.
All that said, the entire shoot lasts upwards of 6 months or more, with each day apparently as grueling as the one before. With a burnout cast and crew, Cameron would face certain challenges in VFX development a short time later, when the graphics for the creature took nearly as long to create as the entire film did to shoot.
Dude, Simon, I just realized it's like the second James Cameron fire you've already covered. We're four episodes in. The writing team's not spread, man.
Yeah, but the Abyss is like his real-world trip. Probably way more intense than the Titanic's hallucinogenic clam chowder.
Yeah, that's true. You know, writing team is narrowing it out here, aren't they?
I don't know. I mean, they're both really interesting film production tables.
Oh, tables.
I meant tails.
Sorry. The Abyss is a lot, though. You know, you need to start telling listeners to maybe just do a little reading up on this. You know, I don't think you can have time to cover it all here.
That's what I was hoping to do.
Ooh.
That way, they won't have time to listen to you, remember?
And that wraps up another segment of the Cinematic Dumpster Fire.
Hang on, I wasn't finished.
Oh, you're finished, all right.
Fine, whatever. I tried. Can I at least say goodbye?
Go on.
When did you get the authority around here anyway?
I have the authority around you. Oh, I like this, yeah.
Never mind. And that will wrap up another brief and unrelated segment of the Cinematic Dumpster Fire. Definitely read up on the making of The Abyss, as we barely scratched the surface on how difficult that film was to create. I'm Simon here with Poxy Leonard, and you're listening to The Ghost of Hollywood. Stay tuned because Poxy and Reagan will return with Thaddeus right after these messages.
Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghost-of-hollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast.
So when you use that, you using all prime lenses? Are you using any particular type of lensing right now? Or you just kind of playing with where's at the camera?
Yeah, just kind of.
Man, when you get behind some industry equipment, I'm gonna go ahead and get him under contract. This man is going to be worth millions. He's going to be worth millions. Yeah, I'm like Harry Cohen over here. I'm like, we'll get your hair right.
Yeah,
We're ready to do it.
We're ready to do it.
Yeah. No, but it's amazing because you have say, how has this evolved? How have things? Obviously, you've talked a little bit about working with free programs versus getting to drag and frame, but outside of editing and. I guess to clarify the question, how have things worked or evolved from Two Tortoises to Planet Juicebox?
Oh, man, it's constantly. I feel like the moment you think you know everything, you stop learning. And that is why I am absolutely obsessed with stop motion. I mean, aside from it being such an old school way of filming and just being so genuine, it's just always something to learn. And it's literally, stop motion is literally everything. You take so much you learn, and you got to do everything. I mean, whether it's like animating, I weld, I do construction stuff, and I'm using all these different little skills I've picked up throughout my life. Like even simple stuff. For example, right now I'm making a terrain for this music video, and I'm on this very, very small budget, and it's like, well, what am I gonna do? So a lot of people use foam and stuff. Well, I just use drywall. It's like $17 for a whole bag. I'll just sit there, drywall out a scenery and paint it and make it, So it's just cool, just having these different experiences with things I've done, or even talking about building the choppers. I build choppers. So it's I kind of know how they function and stuff. So it's I can make it. The continuity is very important to me, so it's
yeah. I mean, obviously, I guess the functionality isn't the total same, but when you size it down, you're paying attention to the aesthetic appeal of it, but you are paying attention to some of the functionality.
Yeah,
you're looking at it from how's this motherfucker feel real kind of thing.
Yeah,
all right.
He's got a jockey shift. Okay, how does that work? But yeah, going back to your question, yeah, as far as like from the 2 tortoises to Planet Juicebox, a lot what I focused on for Planet Juicebox was actually more camera stuff as far as like how clean it looks, just trying to get it focused right. A lot of the lighting stuff's very important too, to make sure it's like not shadows casting. So I've been using different types of lights and stuff, and yeah, just trying to always step up. I feel like always just trying to make something better each time, you know.
I guess you have probably pretty good controllability over light, being like mostly kind of like a miniature studio set. Do you accent things certain ways, or like where's your primary focus with light right now? As far as your self, you got a very autodidactic form of teaching. So of yourself here, where are you teaching yourself this now?
Right now, I've just been trying to shoot stuff more daytime, like super bright and deserty, to where like the tortoise one was a very dark forest nighttime thing. So I'm just trying different things. Sometimes it's fun, like Tex gets abducted by a UFO at the end of Dry Squeeze, and with that one is like I put like a red light on it to kind of give it like a weird alien effect and stuff, you know? So
what did you with certain stories and developing certain stories, how'd you develop the latest one between Tex and Nina?
You mean for the latest Planet Juicebox?
Yeah, the latest, yeah.
Well, so here I go again. So see, I kind of everything I do just kind of rolls into something else. So Tex and Nina originally, the only story was going to be that Nina steals Tex's bike.
Yeah.
That was the story. But I wanted it to be good, so I practiced shooting before actually filming the one where Nina steals Tex's bike. I was like, I'm going to practice. So what I did was I filmed Tex getting off his bike and taking a piss. And that was what I shot. And that was supposed to just be a practice I wasn't even going to use. But like all my stuff, I was like, I kind of like how that looked. So I'm gonna keep going with this. So then, the one that's called Tough Luck, that one was actually just totally freestyled. I had Tex P, and it was gonna be like a freestyle one. I was like, this is kind of funny. I was like, what am I gonna do next? I cannot tell you where the juice box came into play, but I just all of a sudden had this idea where. I think where it came into play was like, again, going back to like how the chopper stuff, I want to make the scary looking guy look kind of goofy. I was like, well, instead of having him drink a beer and throw a beer on the ground, how do we get goofy with that? Well, let's have a juice box.
Yeah.
You know, that's like more kid friendly. And also, I mean, you could relate that to like drinking booze, like drinking and driving.
It's got its undertone. Yeah, I see that.
So it's got like a little hidden message there too. Yeah. So I was like, juice box, perfect, going with it. And then so I made a little slapstick where the juice box kind of like sprays him in the face. And
how'd you work on the radio when the radio gets up and starts?
Oh, so the radio I actually have, that's another one of those rigging things where it's like actually I have a screw running through the back of it, and the rigging equipment's actually behind the radio. So it does look like his feet are like moving up in the air and stuff, but actually that one has no chrome key or nothing. I'm very little chrome key. Yeah. So I just try and hide all the rigging stuff I can, so I don't have to. I try and be as little as digital as possible. And when I do go digital, I probably do the slowest ways possible. For example, when I add little effects, like there's a scene where Tex has these hearts going around his head, a little 2D image thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one, I literally drew up some hearts, went into Photoshop, saved a photo, then I moved it, saved a photo, moved it, saved it. So it's literally still stop motion with those like little effects you're getting. Like you could go on YouTube, and this would be a much easier way, go on YouTube and be like, blah, 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 hearts, and then chrome key out the background. But I made my own and was just like, literally sat there in Photoshop and saved like 60 different photos.
I was like, that had to have been very tedious. Still doing stop motion,
Yeah, so.
That's effort there. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But that's like one of those little things everybody's talking about, and then the hearts come up, and you're like, it's the fucking heart.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part. I did this project where you can hear the feet walking, and there was like this little background Foley art with the feet, and I'm like, dude, the fucking feet. I was so proud of it. Everyone's like, what the fuck are you
Foley?
What are you talking
but
about?
I love the feet, man. But, but
that
like
sounds terrible.
I love the feet.
Hey, yeah, I got some things. No, but anyway, but it's that's pretty wild. Now, with now that you're starting to build so you start start doing this stuff on your own originally. You working at your own place doing this? And
Yeah.
Have you had to like section off?
Oh, definitely.
How do you work with that? Are you like doing
so
William Burroughs, like you scattered around the house like a madman, or you?
Yeah, it's kind of taken over my bedroom and my garage. So here's here's the thing. So I I live in a garage.
All right.
We get a little hot in the summer there, but I built this really nice room. It's actually nicer than it sounds. They got a window and stuff. But so I used to have this 56 Chevy sitting out in the garage I was working on and rebuilding. Well, I traded this 56 Chevy for this bike and stuff, so I got rid of that, so that cleared out the garage. I was like, I'm building a studio in here. So now I have my own studio inside my garage, and that's where I do all the sets and stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
You start building a team because you initially are on your own. How's that building a team? What's that incorporated into? I know we were talking about the deadlines, and now you've got to get the workflow, and you're pretty easygoing guy. So how do you got to turn up the gas on? How you make this work?
Okay, so so I got really tired of. It's cool doing this stuff yourself because you're on your own time frame. Problem is, it gets very lonely. I'm a very social person. I like to get out and hang out, and so spending 16 hours straight drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, pulling all-nighters and stuff by myself listening.
Maybe me a call sometime, man. We'll use it together.
Yeah. It gets a little lonely. I mean, sometimes it's very awesome and it's really rewarding to just be by myself doing my stuff, but also gets kind of lonely. Well, so when I got asked to do this music video, I was like, okay, that's a lot. I've done a music video before, especially if I'm getting more than 3 sets in there. That's going to take forever. So I was like, I'm going to need a team, and that'll be cool because it's people to bounce ideas off of. It's people to joke and talk with, other people that bring their art flavor to the table and stuff. So so I started putting this team together. I was like, we'll do this music video for you, but I'm going to bring these other guys on the team. And I remember the first time I told Jenny that, she's like, they better not suck. And I was like, and now she sees who it is, and she's like, all right. She's like, fuck yes.
Well, you got. So we were talking to local artist John Weir, and John's been working on the backdrop.
Keith Henderson,
Keith as well. All right. So why them? When did you go them? And did you know them beforehand?
Yeah. So John Weir. So I draw. Actually, years ago, I actually used to do graphic design on the side, like freelance. And so John Warren, back when I was in bands and stuff, I grew up in school, being the kid in school drawing, and the teacher's like, stop drawing, pay attention kind of thing. Yeah. So I did a lot of drawing growing up. But when I was in this band Fatal Fix, I wanted this logo with this it was basically going to be like a wolf, but it was like in a pope. It was like it had a pope face, but it was like tearing its own face off, and it was like a wolf underneath. And I was like, well, that's a really cool idea, but I feel like I know someone that'd draw it better. So I hired John Warren to draw it up.
He's the one.
And he is so intricate and his detail, he just really puts a lot of detail out there. So that's why I went with him. And then with Keith, I really relate with him because he does a lot of sort of Ed Roth stylish. I'm not saying he's exactly the same, but he's got kind of that cartoony, real fun, wild monster thing,
But it fits the aesthetic. He understands
Jim
it.
Phillips, Ed Ross style. So
All right.
I was like, these two guys are going to be perfect. So right now, as it lays, I got John. He's painting this background, and it's cool because our reference for this video, at least for these backdrops, is David Mann.
All right.
And I love the David Mann art, and I also like a lot of the Frank Frazetta and all that stuff. So John's kind of painting these really cool looking backdrops and stuff in that style, but then the characters are going to be more goofy, cartoony, like me and Keith are more used to doing.
Is John familiar with the work that you're in, some of the artists that you're describing now, or has he had to do some research and kind of dig in on
no, yeah, he knows more about artists than I probably do.
That sounds about right. Yeah, he's probably excited. He's like, thank God you don't want me to draw a fucking Crust album.
Yeah. No, that for me, a lot of names and stuff are usually in one ear and out the other. I'm like, I'm saving my brain for other things.
That makes
some
sense.
stuff I don't remember. Yeah.
Who does? You've had some friends do some of the voice acting for you, though, correct?
Yeah.
How have you approached them with that? And does it take a while to actually? I mean, there's not a lot of dialogue, but do you do all the Foley art and the sounds for it as well?
Yeah. So, with Planet Juicebox, Tim, who plays Tex, and then Sarah, who plays Nina. They're this amazing married couple I know, and they're like, they're like the kind of couple everyone tries to be. Like,
Yeah.
that couple is awesome. Yeah. So that's who Tim and Sarah are. So I was talking with Tim because me and Tim will go lunch sometimes. And he's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to do voices. If you ever need a voice for one of your things, let me know." I was like, "Actually, yes, I'm doing one for this Chopper guy."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I could do that voice," and it showed me. I was like, "Perfect." And then as time went on, I was like, came on more with my story and what I was going to do. I was like, "Oh, I want this character Nina to steal his bike and stuff." And I was like, "Wait, does Sarah do voices?" And then so I had Tim and Sarah do the voices for Tex and Nina.
Nice.
So.
What about the Foley art?
Like all the background.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
sound, yeah.
So it's a mixed bag. So I try to keep everything as original as possible, especially creating things like you could with miniatures and stuff to save time. You could go out and just buy stuff. Like they sell so much mini stuff now. You could eBay, whatever. Like, for example, there's a beer can in one of my videos. That was just something I purchased. I didn't buy it. Granted, I did drill a hole in the top of it to make it look more real. but the beer can I didn't make, I'm very into like trying to keep it original, or at least take a toy and completely tear it apart and rebuild it into something else. So with leaning into the sound is like a lot of the sounds I try and keep original. Like the juice box where the straw's making the bendy noise. I actually bought one of those kids' toy, the bendy.
Oh, those are like fidgets.
Yeah. So I actually filmed that, or like stuff like that that's like simple to do that I could film my stuff. I just filmed on my phone. But then there's stuff like the UFO where I had really great ideas for like going out, finding a generator and filming that, and then filming like some other, I'm putting them together to create like a UFO sounding. But here's the thing, I was working with my own deadlines of like trying to have it done for this Chopper book. And also that's my goal is like to meet deadlines. So I'm like, well, I said 6 months has to be done. So I was like, kind of rushed some stuff and just stole stuff from like YouTube and stuff. And like,
well, that's the way, but look, if you're meeting deadlines and you're trying, that's your main goal. Look, everyone out there who's like, if you don't sign the contract, I need you to sign. No, but everyone's going to be like, he does stop motion and he'll meet deadlines.
This is a rarity.
No, like
so far I haven't missed one, but we'll see. Cutting it real close with this ad. So
how long does this advertisement have to be that you're working on now?
So I found out more about it. I actually thought it was going to be a lot more. Do you know what a lyric video is?
Yes.
You do.
Yeah, I was like, I do.
All right.
I
am a
no
student here.
idea what that was.
So what is a
until
lyric
recently.
video? Does this have the words on it or something?
Yeah, it's basically just like most of the time with like artists like Ariana Grande, they'll have their music video, they'll have like just the audio with like the cover of the album or the EP, and they'll have a lyric video. And it's basically just this video with like all the lyrics in pretty animation. Half the time you can't read the words because it's just pretty to look at, but a lot of times it's just standard with most like pop artists and things like that. They're cool to look at, don't get me wrong.
I'm a
but-
dinosaur.
Yeah,
I didn't
apparently
fucking
it's like
clue
a
this
way
stuff
to
is.
like I don't know if this is right, but to like promote like a music video coming soon. Is
Yeah,
that sound right?
usually I've seen them come out before music
Oh,
videos
gotcha.
too, so
Yeah.
it's kind
Well,
of
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, so the way
It's a music video promo essentially.
Yeah, so what the way the Spurs are wanting it, and they sent me a reference, is like basically what they want me to do is film about 10 seconds and then just put it on a loop. So I'm gonna have this like 10-second loop of the desert background, and the lyrics are just gonna go over
Oh,
that.
so you're making a lyric video?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
I see now.
yeah.
I was about to be like, a whole music video? That's intense. How long's the song? Yeah.
No, yeah. So right now we're doing the lyric video. That's what's due in like next week. And then after that's out, I have till September to finish the whole actual music video.
Oh,
So it's a way of
yeah.
promoting the song, but also promoting the music video coming soon.
That's cool though, because you at least get like controllability along the way.
Yeah. I think what it really comes down to is Jenny Don't and the Spurs had these new songs they record, and they're like, we want to release these. We realize stop motion is going to take at least 6 months, so how can we still release this song? I was like, why don't you do this? Just do a little 10-second loop thing of like what you do have. We'll release that, so we release the song, and then the music video will come later. Yeah.
Well, things like stop motion are pretty eye-catching too if you're giving someone of a teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah, you show teasers of your models and stuff on TikTok and
Definitely.
things like that, right?
Yeah,
How's the
yeah.
response to that? Do you get a lot of questions about what you're
Yeah,
doing?
especially the one, oh man, like when I released that chopper, there was this Instagram called FTW, Forever Two Wheels. It's a chopper one that a lot of people follow, and the guy was nice enough to repost like my little mini chopper I did, and I'm not even exaggerating. I must have had 20 people write me being like, "Can you make me a mini chopper for my husband? Can you make me a mini?" Unfortunately, I had to turn all those down at the time. I was like, "Well, I'm doing this more for stop motion, but maybe in the
Yeah.
future if I have time."
Now
I
they're
was
like ready to
you
build
ever
models.
start-
and
yeah, I was like, maybe I just need to build mini choppers for
Start
people.
your own Etsy.
you
The
have
whole
to be
business ahead.
careful.
Yeah,
You bring up a point that where you have to be careful as you get into the industry because, like you're saying, your creative efforts are like first and foremost. So you're trying not to get like sidechained into shit. We're like 8 months on like a commercial project that will pay the bills and usually works. It's like, but when I get done, it's gonna ruin everything else, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. How do you think you're gonna manage the creativity? You think you're just gonna continue to kind of expand with the crew?
Yeah, I'm hoping to expand with the crew and just keep the same crew on. And my end goal would be, I think my end goal would be, I don't actually know. The thing is in life, sometimes you think you want something and then you get it. It's not at all what you thought it was.
Yeah.
So in my brain, what I would really love is that if I could start getting enough money for this to actually pay the artist, you know, what they're worth and have like a small team. I don't want a big team. I don't need to go to any kind of corporate level of like, I don't need 400 people working on a project. I mean, maybe if I really later wanted
You got that many people, you better be pulling some serious.
Yeah. But what I would really like is that for my future is to have like a small crew of like 6 to 10 of us, and we basically have a small studio space, and we're either putting out ads or doing a cartoon. I thought, it'd be really amazing to have our own like cartoon that we just put out, like Prometheus and Bob Celebrity Deathmatch type thing, you know?
I mean, you're kind of getting there with Dex and now, you're starting to streamline that a bit.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of new series on YouTube, like if you've seen the Amazing Digital Circus. That's like a newer series. It comes out like, I don't exactly know the schedule for when it comes out, but there's 2 episodes out now. It's animation, but I feel like that'd be cool if you were to start your own sort of like TV series almost, because that's just really popular online.
That'd be fun.
So.
Yeah.
What if
And
somebody
that would be like
what if somebody finds you and wants to take you commercial level? You want to go? Or do you know?
if they wanted me to do a commercial?
Well, no, I mean like go commercial level. Like say somebody's like, hey man, pack your ass. You're going to LA. Like, you ready?
I think that's the only thing it would take to,
You got to read the fine print on that one, maybe.
Well, no, here's the thing though, is like life to me is about adventure and experiences. So how often someone gonna ask you to do
You're
that?
going to go. All right, good. You're going to answer the question I wanted you to fucking say.
And if it sucks, I'll leave. It's like, I don't care if I'm in a contract. Fuck you.
I give it a few months.
can
If it don't
sue
work
my
out, I
ass.
carry my ass back. There ain't nothing for him to take if you leave it.
Yeah. I'm like, whatever, man. Like, why not? Like, what do I got to lose? It's cool to try out new things. Like, I don't want to stay doing the same stuff all the time,
Now, because you're going to get to that level, and then we're going to have to be like, hey, Thaddeus, we need to license this episode now. What are some things about it that you're doing now? Because I'd say, and I'll relate personally, there are certain things in projects as I have gone along and done some things, and I'm like, all right, this is something I don't want to fucking do. So, like, are there some things if money comes into play, or if you get somebody that enjoys something a little more, the way you're happy to like either delegate or just pass that off? What is that?
I think it's going to depend on the situation. Like, if I need like a quick buck for like, let's say I have, I do have this idea for this cartoon I want to do, and say I can't fund it, but then this guy comes to me like, hey, make this like Nike's commercial or whatever. It's like, I could pass it off and stay true to my art form, or it's like, you know what? I'll take that money to work on my own stuff. But at the same time, I feel like if a big company's coming to you, asking you for stop motion, they probably want something cool. No one puts out stop motion if it ain't somewhat cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I would imagine the budgeting, like the timing consensus and the integration of time here. So, you're having to work on projects that, like, I mean, say, all right, in Dry Squeeze, the episode, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you from like beginning to end to really complete that?
Oh, so dry squeeze is actually
It's like 5.5 minutes. So
it's
that's a
5
long
and a half
time
minutes, but it's technically what dry squeeze is so I put out the random episode I made, which I was talking about earlier, where Texas peeing, and then the juice box. That one's called Tough Luck. And then I was like, okay, now I got to actually film the one where I had brought in Tim and Sarah to do the voices, which that one's called Two of a Kind. So then I filmed Two of a Kind and released that. So what dry squeeze is dry squeeze is Tough Luck and Two of a Kind mixed into one episode. So I just took the two and morphed them into an episode. And the reason I call it dry squeeze is because maybe in the future I want to do another 5 minutes, because then I'll have a full 11-minute cartoon and call it Full Squeeze.
Oh, okay.
All right, nice.
I'll be waiting for this.
But is it how long? But like, say with each one, I mean, let me think of this another way. In a static, you get 5 minutes. You had to do all of that front to back. With what you know now, would you time that out probably 6 months
I
or
would
so?
say
And is that costing you 10-hour days?
Yeah, each 2.5 minute episode. So Tough Luck, and then 2.5 minute of Two of a Kind. Granted, I mean it's maybe 2:45, whatever. Those took me about a month and a week to film each one.
That's not bad. I mean, that's fast. Like I would think. I
also
with the
crack
team,
out.
You'd be able to fucking move, dude.
Yeah, well, I also am a bit of a maniac and will sit in my room drinking, 40 coffees, smoking 5 packs of cigarettes.
When have you seen the sun?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's exactly what you have to do. I'll die the same death with you. It's fun. Yeah, but it's I'm just kidding.
Anyway, I want to discuss your YouTube channel, Rawhound. Now, when did you endeavor to go from creating animations for fun to, fleshing out a business for yourself?
That's an experiment I'm doing. So as a kid, of course, when you're kids, teachers and parents and stuff generally want the best for you, depending if you're lucky enough for that or not. But they're always kind of trying to push you in that direction of like, oh, you could do something. So going through school, I mean, I remember drawing and stuff, and they were, I always had like, the little art competitions. I'd kind of win like the $25 gift card to Toys R Us for having the best drawing, or like, teachers were always telling my mom, like, get this kid into an art school, So I kind of in my head as a kid, because of the way I was brought up, kind of had a lot of people pushing that in my head, like do something with it as an adult, do something. So now that I'm here as an adult, I'm like tinkering. Like I started off as fun, like I'm going to do this for myself, see how good I am at it. And then now that I've just seen like such an amazing response with people being so sweet and being like, oh, this is so good, I love what you're doing. I'm like, well, okay, I guess it's a little better than I realized. And I'm getting a lot of good feedback on it. So I'm like, well, maybe I do need to take it to the next level. I mean, that's how I was pushed as a kid, like from like all my teachers and parents and stuff, like, do something with this, So I'm like, I'm experimenting with that, because like, going back to what I said earlier, is like sometimes you get what you thought you wanted and it's not what you want. So right now I'm going to try and take it that next level of trying to meet deadlines and trying to get paid to do this and try and treat it more like a career. If it gets too heavy, I might back off and go back to just doing it for fun as a hobby. But for right now, I'm kind of in an experimental stage of like, all right, let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah.
Let's take it to that next level. So
why the name Rawhound Productions?
So I stuck with raw because it's like a raw art form. I love that it's, it's just like, it's raw art.
Yeah.
I came up with that name I came up with that name back when I was doing the graphic design stuff. I wasn't even doing the stop motion stuff yet. Or actually, no, it was when I did that music video 9 years ago now. I wanted it because it was raw. And I just couldn't find another word to go with raw. So I went with hound, but it's also like a play on words, sexually raw hound.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'll keep that. I have thought about getting more of a professional name, but I'm like, keep thinking of things.
Well, it sounds cool. cool.
Yeah, I'm like, well, it still sounds cool, and it kind of explains the style of art I'm going.
Oh, you're
for, so-
you're with it now.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to. It's starting
Yeah,
to get
you're like
attractive
you're
with it now.
stuck with it. There's
stuck here.
no rebranding now, man.
Well, as far as so, a lot of it is like, I guess now to the point is really your school of self teaching here comes down to the understanding the kind of the commercial aspects of the industry of how do you sell this shit, so to speak.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, when you're on, your
my
own
problem
there,
is I don't.
Do you have anybody knock on your door like, hey man, like, is there? Do you have your Colonel Parker yet?
So, I've definitely had a lot of people reach out. I've had a few different people ask for like ads, like commercial style ads for like their own companies or whatever. I've had a bunch of bands ask me to do music videos. Problem
But
is,
do they want to pay you 6 months
that's
for
what I was
10 hours
gonna-
a day?
That's what I was going to get into. One of my friends once jokingly said, think brands, not bands.
Yeah.
But you got the money.
Well, it's true because, like, I mean, to
We
think
want
about
the
it, though.
money, Lebowski.
But if you're going to spend, because it sounds, it can sound asinine until you've been there. So it's one of those things where what you're doing now is, it could take 6 months, 8 months. And to do that, where we're in an area up here in the Pacific Northwest of, what you're doing working in Florida, you probably make pretty good money. It's
Yeah.
kind of, you can leave it at the fucking door at the end of the day.
Exactly why.
And you don't have that sort of drowning in it where, one, you're going to get to a point probably where you got to prioritize what you want to pick. So you'll have to start saying no. And that's when
Yeah.
the dollar will probably show up for you. But two, it's making people understand that, hey, like, I can do this, but it's going to probably realistically cost for me to even break even like $70,000-$80,000.
Right, stuff's expensive.
Yeah, so it takes a lot, and that's without getting. I mean, when you start to get to a point where you have controllability and budget in the studio, they'll show up, and that's why I think it's really important that you're focused on debt. Look at me over here. I'm like, look, when you've done, I don't fucking know.
He's your
can't,
mentor.
I can't make a goddamn deadline for anything. Look, you feel me? This episode will come out late, and all I've got to do is sit over here and punch some stuff. But it is a thing where I think that. Once all those things are in place, you'll probably be able to concentrate on what you're doing, but getting people in our community and environment to understand that, hey, like, even if you were doing a project for like 60 grand over 6 months, it's pretty thankless. Like, at the end of it, it's going to kill you. You're not going to make a lot for it. So this shit's expensive.
It's very expensive. And that's me doing it on the cheap, like I was talking about earlier. Like, I'm using drywall for terrain because that's like.
Oh, no, we're talking nice.
bucks
I mean,
a bag.
commercial standards, you could be like, you're talking like $250,000, motherfuckers. Yeah. We're talking six figures. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, even this project alone, keeping on cheap. And this is like me not buying ball and socket. This is just using a lot of stuff I already have, to be honest. Like, I've been working, me and John and Keith been working on this already for like a month now. And, for now I'm funding it. I mean, obviously the band's going to like pay and stuff, but for now I'm funding it. And, I'm already at like $600 just in a month. And that's just like drywall, glue, clay, and
That's probably cutting it on the
Hell
corners.
no.
Yeah.
that's really cutting corners there,
But that's still like, and then you're still not even like the time and the labor and effort. that goes into it.
Well, and that's a set that's not even done yet.
Yeah.
And that's just a set. The characters aren't done yet. The van I'm gonna build ain't done yet. This is just like the very tip of it. This is literally just for
You were being
us
really
to do-
nice.
This is just for terrain and a backdrop so far.
Jesus, man. But it is a point where it pays off in time, and you like
Yeah.
doing it, so it's not grueling. In some ways,
exactly. Yeah.
Pay a good
You see where
amount for good talent.
Yeah,
It's one of these things you're like, look, I'm doing this shit now, but if this, like you're saying, if it don't pay off at some point, I can always go back.
You can always-
Yeah, I go
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
I
understand.
try to get out and they keep
So,
pulling me back.
after you're working on this, we'll let you go here in a second. But what is in the scheme of things? What do you want to do next outside of commercial projects? If you think you're going to get too bogged with that, or what is your creative intent
it's
over the next
really
6 months?
Well, so far, I'm kind of learning as I'm going, to be honest. So, like, as once this music video's done, it's hard to say. I might get asked to do something, then I go down that road, or if not, I'm gonna continue on to the next thing, because it'd be really cool to, like, maybe one day have my own cartoon or something.
Yeah. Well, free agent now.
Yeah.
You need an agent. You get an agent out there. They're going to start pushing you, and then next thing you know, you're going to be hiding under your covers. Right?
Yeah.
They'll be coming for you.
I don't want it.
Well, anyway, is there anything we didn't? I'm trying to make sure we covered everything.
I think we've covered everything.
Nice.
We appreciate you coming in and talking to us on the Ghost of Hollywood.
You
so
guys.
A big pleasure. Thank you so much.
we're trying to catch you on the way up.
Yeah.
That way, in a bit we'll be like,
When you get famous, we're
be
the
at
first.
a party. We're gonna be at the party like, y'all, I know that guy. I know that guy. Be name drop. Somebody would be talking to you, and be like, I don't know that motherfucker. But anyway, but we appreciate you coming on the show and stuff. Definitely look forward to checking out what you got going on, and we'll talk probably quite a bit about it after the interview and a little bit before.
Oh yeah, of course. Definitely drop all his socials and everything. Check you out.
Yeah,
sure.
thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
it's been awesome. It's been fun. So
I know, and it's good to have you in house because you don't sound like you're on the telephone. So
Yeah.
it's good to have you really here. We're gonna do it. All right,
exactly.
Well, you are listening to the Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Poxy Leonard here with Miss Reagan. Thaddeus, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Interested in television or movies?
Then check out The Ghost of Hollywood for the best in cinema-related podcast at theghostofhollywood.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to the Ghost of Hollywood. I'm Miss Reagan here with Foxy Leonard, and it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank Thaddeus Thompson for taking the time from his very busy schedule to join us in the studio tonight to discuss his claymation and promotion work.
We'd also like to thank our team here at the Ghost of Hollywood for all of their hard work. Except for Simon, of course. I'm mad at Simon.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't care.
You know.
Well, he left the studio almost an hour ago. He also sent me a picture of your car with a deflated tire.
Reagan, I don't own a car. Oh, I think that's Chris's car. He gave me a ride in.
You see, I tried to tell him this.
Oh, and what did Simon say?
He said that Chris deserved it for being your friend.
You hear that, Chris?
No, he doesn't listen to this.
He's in the other room.
Yeah, probably watching something on his phone.
Does he know about his tires yet?
Nope.
Well, serves him right. Good for you, Simon. Take out 2 next time.
And that'll wrap things up unless you stop by for the fist fighting in the parking lot later.
Yeah, such a violent episode tonight.
I'm Miss Reagan with Poxy Leonard. Until next time, everybody, good morning and good night.
Wait, is Simon really cut Chris' tire?
You've been listening to The Ghost of Hollywood. The Ghost of Hollywood was created by Zach Flannery and Reagan Flannery. The show is written by Chris Klon, is mixed by Lennox Flannery, and mastered by Grady Sizemore and Microphonic Meltdown in Portland, Oregon. Composition by Jesse Garcia, with performances and appearances by Simon Flannery. For more information on The Ghost of Hollywood, please visit theghostofhollywood.com.